This is a presentation about a paper titled A Comparison Between ESL and TEFL University Students' Vocabulary Learning Strategies in the Lebanese Context, prepared by Dr. Manal Senno and Dr. Malaki Itani. The objectives of the current study are 1. To determine the difference in vocabulary knowledge between TEFL and ECE students. 2. To determine the difference in the reported use of vocabulary learning strategies between TEFL and ECE students. Methodology. This study used a mixed method research design. The quantitative tools are Vocabulary Learning Strategies Questionnaire and a Vocabulary Knowledge Test. The qualitative tools are classroom observations, interviews with teachers, and focus group interviews. The results revealed that TEFL students had a significantly higher reported use of memory strategies than ECE students. The conclusion the researcher drew are 1. The utilization of vocabulary learning strategies is common among university students in Lebanon. 2. Students with high vocabulary knowledge use memory strategies more frequently than the other group. Vocabulary knowledge and vocabulary learning strategies. One famous statement about the importance of vocabulary knowledge is, the single most important task facing language learners is acquiring a sufficiently large vocabulary. Confucius said once, give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. Teach a man fishing, you feed him for life. It is not possible for students to learn all the vocabulary they need in the classroom. So, we need to provide them with the means that help them become independent vocabulary learners. The main objectives of this study are 1. To enrich the present literature related to vocabulary learning strategies. 2. To help curriculum designers to decide on the effective vocabulary learning strategies to be utilized. And 3. To guide English teachers to plan and execute lessons and activities that boost the learner's vocabulary proficiency. On the one hand, mastering the 4 basic skills, reading, writing, listening, and speaking, relies greatly on the learner's vocabulary knowledge. On the other hand, vocabulary learning strategies have long been considered pivotal for vocabulary acquisition, for if learners are inclined to procure L2 vocabulary, they should acquire substantial knowledge of vocabulary learning strategies. The 3 dimensions of vocabulary knowledge are the receptive versus the productive, breadth versus depth, and explicit learning versus implicit learning. Receptive knowledge of vocabulary is a term used to describe the words and expressions that learners can comprehend when hearing or reading them. That process is referred to as retention. In contrast, productive vocabulary is a term used to describe the words and phrases that the students can correctly use when writing or speaking. That process is known as retrieval. Both receptive and productive vocabularies have to be well developed for a learner to be able to communicate effectively and to become proficient in the language. Depth of vocabulary signifies knowledge of not only the meaning, but also of phonology, morphology, syntax, sociolinguistic features, dissimilarities between spoken and written uses, and strategies for discovering the meaning of unknown words. On the other hand, vocabulary breadth is known as vocabulary size, for it is related to the number of words that a learner knows. Explicit instruction is a teacher-centered instruction that focuses on definite behavioral and cognitive objectives and outcomes, where vocabulary instruction is made explicit to learners. It is also known as direct instruction. Direct instruction helps develop learners' receptive and productive skills. Students must be urged to use the target words meticulously in context. Implicit instruction, on the other hand, takes place naturally without conscious setups. Go and Johnson in 1996 proposed a taxonomy that encompasses 7 major dimensions of vocabulary learning strategies, which in turn were divided into several categories. The vocabulary learning strategies utilized in this study are 4: metacognitive regulation strategies, guessing strategies, dictionary strategies, and memory strategies. The metacognitive regulation strategies entail 6 items, some of which are: I try to find out all I can about the new words I learn. I focus on words that are related to examinations. I know which words are important for me to learn. The guessing strategies entail 6 items, some of which are: I use my experience and common sense to guess the meaning of a word. I guess the meaning and then look at the dictionary when I meet new words in reading. I use context clues to guess the meaning of a word. Dictionary strategies entail 6 items, some of which are: I prefer to use English dictionary rather than a bilingual dictionary. I use a bilingual dictionary rather than an English dictionary. I use the dictionary to find only the meaning of a word. Memory strategies entail 6 items, some of which are: I analyze the word by breaking it into different parts, prefix, root, and suffix. I think of relationships between words I already know and the new words I am trying to learn. I use flashcards or a notebook to remember new words. While comparing the vocabulary knowledge and vocabulary learning strategies between ECE and TEFL students, we found that TEFL students demonstrated better vocabulary knowledge and higher frequency in the usage of metacognitive regulation strategies, guessing strategies, dictionary strategies, and memory strategies than ECE students. We also noticed that the p-value of the memory strategies is less than 0.05, which indicates a statistically significant difference between the students of ECE and the students of TEFL. The results of the obtained descriptive statistics and the independent t-test indicated that both groups utilized the 4 vocabulary learning strategies: metacognitive regulation strategies, guessing strategies, dictionary strategies, and memory strategies. Although TEFL students use the above mentioned strategies more frequently than the other group, there is only a significant difference in the use of memory strategies among the two groups. TEFL students used memory strategies more frequently than ECE students did. In the current study, the researchers observed 2 instructors. In classroom observations, the researchers noticed that the instructors occasionally wrote notes about the new words on the board, and only some students were writing down the notes. The researchers also noticed that both instructors encouraged their students to use their common sense to guess the meanings of the unfamiliar words before consulting the dictionary applications on their cell phones. Third, they noticed that both instructors encouraged their students to use the monolingual dictionaries on their cell phones to check the pronunciation or the spelling of the words. And finally, the researchers noticed that none of the instructors asked students to specify a notebook for vocabulary learning. Similarly, none of the instructors encouraged the students to form a mental image or to visualize the meaning of the word. But both instructors encouraged their students to activate their schemata when trying to learn a word or group the words spatially on the board. In the interviews, the instructors affirmed that most of their students tried to relate the new words to already learned ones. They also confirmed that barely any of their students tend to study the synonyms, antonyms, or the other definitions of the words. During the focus group interview with the students, When asked about the metacognitive regulation strategies, 3 students admitted that they only focus on the words that are included in the exams. Only 1 student tries to memorize word lists and definitions. 2 respondents declared that they often try to activate their schemata by relating the unfamiliar words to existing knowledge. However, only 1 student claimed to use graphic organizers, flashcards, or word grouping when trying to learn new words, while 3 respondents used notebooks to refer to when studying the words. Finally, only 1 student said that she often visualizes the words she is trying to learn. When asked about the guessing strategies, the students assured that they analyzed the context clues when attempting to guess the meaning of the unfamiliar words they encountered through reading. However, only 2 students mentioned that they analyzed the structure of the word to guess its meaning. And finally, when asked about the dictionary strategies, 3 respondents claimed that they used bilingual dictionaries to look up the meaning of the unfamiliar words. 1 respondent admitted that after referring to a monolingual dictionary, she consults a bilingual one or Google Translate it to make sure that she understands the meaning of the word. At the end of the study, the researchers reached 2 main conclusions. First, the utilization of vocabulary learning strategies is quite common among university students in Lebanon. Second, the students with high vocabulary knowledge use memory strategies more frequently than the other students do. The recommendations can be summarized as: first, curriculum designers and instructors are advised to encourage students to use different vocabulary learning strategies. Second, it is also essential that they give students explicit and clear instruction and adequate practice on the different strategies to help increase their vocabulary knowledge. Thank you for listening. The researchers are Dr. Manal Sinno from the Lebanese University, Lebanon, and Dr. Malaka Itani from Dar al Hikmah University, Saudi Arabia.